We're back with one more down. Today we have the pleasure of having Coach Sherman Smith on. Coach Smith was a 1972 graduate of Youngstown North High. He is one of the favorite sons of Youngstown because he's gone on to do such great things and always represents the city very well. We're excited to have you on today and get this chance to pick your brain and hear about your experience and your football journey and life experience as you came up in Youngstown. So welcome to One More Down today, Coach.
Thank you, Ron, Dallas, for allowing me to be a part of your podcast today, and look forward to having a great conversation talking about the good old days in Youngstown.
We like to begin, just getting that family demographic and telling us a little bit about your background and, those loved ones that were very close to you growing up.
Well, like I say, grew up in Youngstown. My mom and dad, John T. Smith, mom, Lily Smith, I called my dad my hero, my mom my shero, and so they were very important people in my life. And then, I had two brothers, Vincent, he's the oldest, and then my younger brother, Daryl, who passed away in 2017. And, so miss him dearly. And so just our family there, most of our family was right there, lived on the South Side. My grandmother and my cousin, Mike, they lived on the South Side. And so I was familiar with a lot of people on the South Side because of my family relationships on the South Side. And Mike was familiar with people on the East Side because he would come over to the Sharon line and hang out with us. So, the family and, just grew up with some great guys. Coach Clifton Knox, he was the reason why I became a coach, because of him. It was absolutely his influence in my life and the impact that I saw that he had at North High School. And I was sitting in the back of his health class one day, and I said, man, that's what I want to be. I want to be a coach. I want to do like Coach Knox did, because he came to our high school and changed that high school from the inside out, because he came at a time where he started affirming us as people, black players, white, girls, boys. Man, he just affirmed us and told us to think of ourselves differently, and it changed the school. We became a championship program because of, just his mindset that he put on us. So just so many relationships, Ron and Dallas, growing up in Youngstown, man, that I just owe a lot of my development as a man to those times back in Youngstown and those people that really fed into my life and made a world of difference for me. I'm married, went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and graduated in '76. I met my wife there, Sharon. We've been married now going on 46 years, and we have 3 kids, Dylan, my daughter Siobhan, and also a son, Sherman. So we have 3 kids and 7 grandkids, and so we are truly blessed.
Now, you grew up out on the east side of Youngstown and attended most of your schooling or all of your schooling in that Sharon line area?
Yes. Yeah, I went to Science Hill Elementary and then Science Hill Junior High and then North High School. And so I got it all done right over there in that area there.
And what does that mean, from your perspective to have lived out in that area your whole life and be a part of that community? Because, for the rest of us others, east, west, and north side, we always viewed that Sharon line area is so far out from the rest of Youngstown. It was almost like its own little world out there.
Oh man, yeah, and the thing was, North High School was the smallest high school in the city. So we had, student population of maybe 9 through 12, we might have had 300 or 400 students. So we had a small population. So the community was small, but man, I just thought we were a pretty close-knit community. And, just the way guys grew up, we grew up playing Little League football together and went through high school together. And that made a world of difference in our relationships, having those guys that you've known since elementary, your friends since that time, and just grew up with a lot of the guys. And so that made it special. So I thought we had a pretty special community. Like I said, particularly once when the football team and the basketball team, man, we were rolling, and that gave the Sharon Line community pride. I mean, the people on the Sharon line were proud of the North High Bulldogs, football, basketball, track, whatever it was. And they were proud, and we were proud of our community.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask you kind of leading up to it. So I think we spoke with um, your cousin, 2 weeks ago? Great conversation. And, talked about the evolution of North High School, right? One of the things we've tried to touch all the high schools in the city, Ursuline, Mooney, Rain, South, Wilson, North. And it's been tough to find some guys to come on and speak about North. I think because of the closure. And one of the things I want to ask you was, you were part of that transition with Coach Knox of being really successful, but prior to that, there wasn't a lot of success.
Right.
And so what was that transition kind of like for you, being seeing that coming up and then entering North and vying for city titles and being successful, going on to play college? What was that kind of like for you as an individual and then collectively as a group?
Well, I think the thing that I learned from that is that the change that took place at North High School, going from being one of the, as far as sports goes, one of the losingest programs, not only in the city of Youngstown, but maybe in the whole state, and how the program got changed, not because of X's and O's, but because how Coach Knox and Mr. Ritz and Mr. Bush and other teachers came in there and they looked at the Jimmys and the Joes and the Marys and the Janes, and they talked to us and they affirmed us and talked to us about how we looked at ourselves and so the change was more transformational. It was inside out, not outside in. It was us looking at ourselves differently, taking pride in our community, taking pride in ourselves, and pride in our school. And that's the kind of stuff that Coach Knox and the other teachers were teaching to us. And then during that time also, it was, we know the racial tension, what that was all about. Heck, I remember the day Martin Luther King, Dr. King got killed, man, being at North High School. I remember all that stuff. And so just knowing how important that was as far as my development, as how I saw myself as a young Black man growing up, the possibilities that were in front of me, that one set of community was telling me one thing, but within our community, we had hope that we could do good things and be a positive impact in our society. So just being a part of that transformation, man, it just did so much for my confidence, my self-esteem, and giving me hope and a desire to continue to look past the things that were, people were trying to deny us, and just looking forward to being all that we could be. And when we start winning football games and basketball games, and our community changed, and you could just see the pride in the community. And so it gave me hope, really. It just gave me hope as I grew up there, and I was a part of that transformation, and just to see how it was done. And then that's why it became my desire, I believe, to want to be a coach. I wanted, be a difference maker like Coach Knox, Coach Ritz, Coach Bush, all those other coaches that we had at North High School, and all the men that grew up coaching me. I tell guys I was really fortunate growing up in Youngstown. Not only did I have my dad in my life, but I had 15 or 16 other men in my life. Guys who's I was friends with, their fathers. And there's a statement that I use even when I started coaching. I said, you may not be looking for a father, but I'm going to treat you like you're my sons. I got that from what happened in Youngstown. Those 15 to 16 men treated me just like I was their son. They weren't buying my clothes and all that other stuff, but as far as affirming me and correcting me and giving me guidance, I had men reaffirming what my father and what my mother were teaching me. So I was really blessed to have so many men, and they were all my little league coaches, from McGuffey Center all the way up through high school. Those men were impacting my life. And so that's what I remember, Dallas, that transformation, just those men stepping up and being fathers and making a difference in not only my life, but in the life of all the young men that I grew up with on the Sharon line.
Yeah, and so often when whether it's in sports or business or schools or whatever the case may be, you talk about like a culture change, and the trap is you just you get a couple key people or a couple key players and you fix it for a short time. But like you're talking about, the things that change lives are, you know, those relationships
That's right.
and the investing in people. And that's always the impressive thing to hear how people do that. So I thank you for that.
Well, I thank those guys. I call them the giants in my life. I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants. Like I said, not just my mom and my dad, but just so many other men. And that's, that made a difference. And just that impact is life changing. It changed a lot of our lives in the trajectory that we were on. We for a while, when my dad came to me and he asked me what I wanted to do, and my dream, my father could tell I had bought the line. Heck, I told him I wanted to live right down the street. I said, Dad, I want to live in an apartment complex right down the street from where we live. And that was the Kimmelbrooks. And I'm not putting any shade on anyone living in the Kimmelbrooks right now. But society was telling me that's about the only place where I could hope to live. And on the Sharon line, we had the Kimmelbrooks, we had McGuffey Terrace, and we had the Plaza View Apartments. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna live in one of those 3 apartment complexes when I grow up, and I'm gonna work in a steel mill like my dad did and so many other guys' dads did. And, maybe if I get a nice car one day. And so that was before, I just really sat and took a look at things and looked at what Mr. Knox was doing. And that's when I said, man, no, man, when my dad told me I could be better than that, do better than that. And so I aspired for more. And I said, okay, well, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a coach. I want to be a difference maker. And so I had my dad, my mom, and those other men speaking into my life, telling me it could be.
Now you came up initially playing in that. What were you guys in the Bonnie Rogers League during your time at McGuffey?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now I understand. We spoke with John Carter, Ray Carter's middle son.
Okay.
And he gave us a little bit of background of just how influential and how important that youth program and the McGuffey Center was to that area of Youngstown, because he explained that it galvanized all the boys in that area and made them one cohesive group that kind of stuck together from the time they were playing pee-wee ball and transitioning on up. So my question about that is, Mr. Carter was certainly a great player and a great track man in his own right. So I'm certain he had the knowledge, but I'm kind of interested in, his impact and his teachings, how that translated to those young boys on and off of the field in terms of confidence and just building yourselves up as you're progressing as athletes.
Well, I tell you what, I kind of look at it, and like I said, I think about this now, just even having this conversation, that I would have to say that Mr. Carter had some impact on my decision to want to be a coach also. What I saw, what happened was it's not a coincidence how things happen. Mr. Carter prepared us for the next level, as we grew up as young, 5th and 6th graders. And he took us and Mr. Carter, he was the main guy, but we had Mr. Williams, Mr. Harrell, we had Mr. Banks, we had so many, Mr. McCray, we had so many other men that were involved in the coaching, but they prepared us for what was next. So, instead of looking at us like we were acorns, they looked at us like we were future oak trees. They saw what we could be, and they were preparing us for the next level. And so they just kept galvanizing, talking to us about being men, not how we were, but how we can be, and brought the neighborhood together and were disciplinarians, held us accountable. And I remember when my mom and dad pulled me off the football team because my grades weren't good. And instead of Mr. Carter said, Mr. Carter, well, I'm gonna go talk to your mom and your dad and see if I can get them to let you play. He said, good. I'm glad they took you off the team. Get your grades right. So he always supported what the parents did. And so I knew I didn't have no ally as far as somebody could help me get out of some mess there. Mr. Carter wasn't going to enable me, and so we just had that, man. It was just solid. It was solid. I kind of look at a lot of people that didn't have the advantage that I had, that I really believe I had in playing sports and the kind of instruction that we got from our coaches. Just do things right and holding you accountable to be dependable and responsible. Just all of that, how it galvanized and it supported for everything that was going to come later on in life. And so Mr. Carter, he brought it together. He was my first coach, my very first coach, the very first man that impacted my life besides my father was Mr. Carter, because he was the guy that I was going to McGuffey Center. He was the guy, and so Mr. Carter, and then it just kept going on and just every man. And then when it got to Mr. Knox, we were ready for the next level for what Mr. Knox was talking about, which was basically the same thing Mr. Carter and the rest of those guys were talking about. So he brought us together and he gave us a love for each other and just that commitment to work hard and to be positive men and have pride in everything we did.
Now, it's hard to kind of translate to these latter generations because the city has gone through so many transitions. But, I'm sure probably for you, I know for myself, the high school football was bubbling so hot and heavy as I was coming into grade school that, your local high school players were superstars.
Yes.
And then, that little league experience, how the community came out and really got into those games, it made you feel like you were really doing something, even though you're just learning the basics of the game and, you might run sweep 30 times during a contest as your bread and butter play, but it was just important in terms of drawing you into the game, seeing guys that are carrying their equipment up the street as they're going to practice or wearing their jerseys game day, and seeing those guys in church get singled out and recognized, for essentially doing something that's positive and benefiting them and putting them into pulling them in the right direction, I should say. Who were the guys that you remember as being those first guys that you wanted to emulate or may have looked up to or really followed their progress as they were, hitting the fields around the city?
Well, I think the number one guy that I remember the most, and he was the reason I wanted to be a quarterback, and the reason why I wore number 10 was Larry Williams. He was that guy, and I think I gravitated to him because he was left-handed and I was left-handed, so I really liked that. But he was a quarterback at North. His father was one of the coaches at McGuffey Center that coached us. So his father was a great guy, man, great coach. I just remember a lot of the coaching I got from Mr. Williams. So Larry Williams was really impactful to me. He was a guy that, man, I want to wear number 10. I want to, I'm Larry Williams. And then Bunky McElroy played basketball. And so, and I loved him because he was left-handed, but he was a great player and a guy that, man, just was exciting on the field, and just a guy that, I looked at him, just the respect that he had off the court also, the way he carried himself and just that name McElroy, at that time, boy, the McElroy, that was a big deal, man, and so you had Johnny that played at Youngstown State and Raymond. And so we had all the McElroys and Itzy or Catherine McElroy, who was a track star at Ursuline. And so those two guys right there, I think. And then the guys I played with, Rick Beverly, Cleveland Moutry, Tommy Hyde, James Friendly. I mean, I can go on and on. James Jones, I can go on and on. Earl Taylor, all of those guys, man, that I played with, they were just, guys that were good teammates and guys that I liked hanging out with because they were doing the right thing. And I wanted to hang out with them and do the right thing with them and win football games and represent our community well. So I think it was those, particularly Larry and Bunky were probably the two. Amos Haynes, he was one of the guys that I really had a great deal of respect for because I love the way he played football. And so Amos Haynes was my guy also.
Now, what role does your brother play in your development? And do you all have that sibling rivalry, or was it more of that brotherly love where he got your back, you got his back?
Oh man, it was absolutely brotherly love, man. My father told my older brother something, and to this very day, Vincent still fulfills that obligation. My father told him, "You take care of your brothers. You're the oldest one. You look out for your brothers." Vincent would get in a fight. If somebody was messing with me, Vincent was going to try to take care of him. You don't mess with my brother. That was Vincent's mindset. Don't mess with my brother. He didn't care how big they were. He didn't care anything. Don't mess with my brother. And so, and then, he did the same thing with our younger brother, Daryl. And so even to this day, like I say, he still has that mindset. He's a protector, and he was proud of us. We fought like brothers. We would get into fights and he'd win all the time. That's for sure. So, but that's my brother, man. And I love him today because, man, just how much he loves us and just that, he was proud of me, even though I was having more success on the field than he was. He was still proud of me, supporting me. And, and so we have that brotherly love relationship. And my younger brother, Daryl, who I think was the best athlete of the two of us, he was the best and we were proud of him. And so we didn't compete against each other because we were brothers and we wanted to support each other.
So does that protection that he offered, does that give you an avenue to really develop as a player and a kid, just knowing that you don't have that extra burden of, problems with other individuals from other neighborhoods or what have you, and really get to focus on, developing as a young athlete?
Well, I just knew this. I knew my brother had my back. So I knew my brother. And so I just knew I could always count on him and he could count on me. But then we also had this other brotherhood, guys that were brothers of another mother, so we had those guys also. So we had a community. So it wasn't just, my brother was the main guy, but I had other guys also. So it really wasn't a lot of that other stuff that was taking place in my life where I was getting distracted by outside forces that were trying to distract me from becoming a good football player, a good person. So I didn't have to deal with that a whole lot.
What was the so you mentioned you went to Science Hill Junior High?
Yes.
Did you play football at junior high there?
No, it's interesting. I did all my football playing. I played for McGuffey Center. Then I played for this other team called the United Excavators. And so that wasn't associated with the school. And then after that, that's when I started playing in high school.
Okay.
So I never played for the junior high football team. I played for McGuffey Center up until I was in the 7th, 8th grade or whatever, something like that. So, I played for them for quite a while. Then, like I said, 1 year with the United Excavators, and then it was on to high school.
And so when you got there, was Coach Knox the coach all the way through?
Yes.
Okay. And in 70 and 71, North wins the city title, I believe, right? 70, 71, they win the city title in football. And what was that kind of experience like for you coming in as a freshman? When did you kind of feel like, hey, I can contribute? I'm going to be an important part of this. At what point did you navigate all that to figure out that you were, a player?
Well, it's interesting. As we came through the McGuffey Center transition, it was almost like people could see what was coming next because there were guys that played at McGuffey Center that went on, they were ahead of me and they went to North High School and they were great players. And so here it was, that my era was coming up. And so we could see that it was coming and it hit right about the right time when I was a junior in high school. That's when we won our first city series. And then we won it my senior year, under Coach Knox. And so there were some guys ahead of me. We had Rick Beverly, who I tell people, I think the era and the time that I went to North High School, taking nothing away from other players, I think I went during the era that the greatest players in North history were at that school. They either played before me, or they played with me. We were teammates. So I was in an era of great players. And so just looking at what we had going on there, so I knew coming up right around my junior year that I was going to make a contribution. And then my senior year, I would be the quarterback. So it was just my time was going to be when it was, and it wasn't until my junior year.
And who would you kind of identify as your rival during that time in the city series?
Well, definitely it was always East High School, because they were a rival because they were so close to us. And the other thing was so many guys that played on their team, we played together in Little League football at McGuffey Center. But the ones that didn't play for McGuffey Center, they played for Methodist. They had their football team. So that was the East High version of that was their version. And we were McGuffey Center was the North High version. So Methodist Center. And so no doubt East South High School, was a rivalry. And then just from the standpoint of demographics, the West Side, playing the Cheney High School. Cheney High School was that rivalry because we knew that was one of the predominantly white schools that we were going to play against. And so we always knew that was going to be a tough football game. At that time, guys, I think they only had 4 referees. So we knew we had to beat 15 players. When we played teams like that, we said, okay, we got to beat 15 guys, so we better make sure it's not close. So, but it was always close. And so Cheney High School was that one rivalry, East High School and South High School for sure.
Well, as I told you the other night, I'm a Cheney alum, and ironically, I wore that dime as well, high school and college. So, I must be your brother if that's the case. And you played during that same era as Gary Frost,
yes,
who was the quarterback at East at that time,
right.
And you both share first team All City honors at that quarterback slot.
Mm-hmm.
Having that competitor and that rival on your same side of town, are you keeping tabs on what he's doing in the off season and things of that nature, trying to get a competitive edge, or, it just is what it is when you guys meet?
Well, it was what it was when we met because we were friends. We were boys. We were in the Boy Scout troop together, so his dad was the director of McGuffey Center. So, so we were friends. So we competed in football, but we were friends. And so that was the mutual respect, and we would see each other and talk. And so that's how it was. So it was never anything other than a good, healthy competition on game day and a great relationship off the field, as well as, like I said, we did other things. Like I said, we were in Boy Scout troop together and went on camping trips together. So having Gary playing at at East High School, I was proud of him. He was a heck of a player. We knew, playing at East High School, man, we better tighten things up because Gary was a heck of a player, and so he could change a game in a hurry by how good he was. So just a healthy respect for Gary and for the other guys that we played with.
Now, coming through Cheney for myself, we have a similar pathway as you would have had. Not a lot of success. Pretty much the whipping boy of the city series from 81 all the way to 90. There's no titles in between that time. There was that transition of coaching between Coach Ed Mady and Ron Burtis. In between, I think Coach Burtis took over in 87.
Okay.
So, he's putting his pieces in place and changing the culture. And then we have an influx of my peers coming from the South Side. We all opted to go there on racial balance transfers, not for football reasons, just, as another option for schooling. And we hit right at the right time where the guys who were traditional West Side kids, there was a nice crop of guys coming up and starting to filter up to the varsity level. And then it just kind of meshed together in 90 and 91. And 91, we become the first team to make playoffs in that school's history. So, when I think about North, and, you touched on it earlier, they had a 54-game losing streak at one time. It was the longest losing streak in Ohio history.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you all are competing as a AA school in there with a lot of AAA schools.
Right.
And and a lot of great talent, at each one of those schools in bunches. We're not
Mhm.
just talking about, one standout guy here and there, but there's a lot of parity
Right.
throughout the league and in the surrounding area. So when you guys start to get it going, um, what is that extra thing that you all have that puts you on a level where you can handle uh, the AAA schools and really dominate that league for a couple years, whereas in the past they just
Mhm.
are beating you off of sheer manpower and
Yeah.
numbers.
Well, I tell you what, we realized the thing of it was that we had some talent. We had talented players. We knew we had some guys that can play, and so we just felt that what made us special that we no one was going to outwork us. We felt we had great coaches, great community. So it was just we just brought it all together, and whenever you need unity, it has to be purpose driven instead of people driven. And our purpose was, as we came together, man, is to win games. And I would say, not only were we good in football, but we were good in basketball. We were winning championships in basketball too. And so we had some great players, and we just figured that the school might be AAA, but you can only put 5 guys on the court at one time. You can only put 11 guys on the field at one time. And so in football, so we just felt our 11 was as good or better than their 11. Our 5 was better than their 5. And so that was our mindset. So we weren't worried about the size of the school, but when those guys stepped out on the field, we knew that we were better prepared because how we prepared, and and we knew that we could play. And so our mindset changed as we started winning football games.
Now, some of those guys that you're probably thinking of and the memories are playing in your mind. I see those names pop out in various articles and places. I was really surprised at how many guys you all had that got all state recognition.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I saw Ed Cornwell's name,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Earl Taylor,
Right.
and then Charity.
Alvin
And
Charity. Yep.
I think there was another man that I'm missing. But can you give some insight into some of those figures and leaders that were on the team with you those couple years you all were experiencing that tremendous success?
Yeah, and like I say, charge my forgetfulness to my head, not to my heart, on some of the guys. But we definitely, like I said, Rick Beverly. I thought he was our LeBron James in basketball, and he was a heck of a quarterback. He was the man. I think, like I said, I think he was the best athlete that ever went in North High School history. I think, and that's not to throw no shade at anyone else, because usually when you make that kind of statement, you got to put somebody down. But I'm not doing that. I'm just saying Rick, in my opinion, was that guy. Earl Taylor, like you said, to me, I coached Marshawn Lynch, and he was beast mode. He was beast mode. Take nothing away from the other running backs that played at North High School. I'd take Earl Taylor over all of them because he was a bad boy. So we had Earl Taylor. We had I'm just trying to think. We had Weenie. We had, like I said, Rick Beverly, Cleveland Moutry. We had Tommy Height. James Friendly. My brother was a heck of a football player. He played center and linebacker. He was a dog. He played well. And so, Sam Haskins was our fullback, and Tyrann Pardue. He was our speedy guy, little thin guy, but ran track and was fast as all get out. Alan Charity, the Height brothers, Jesse Carter, Ronnie Wigfall. In basketball, we had guys in basketball, Earl Moore, Joe McCray. We had those guys. So, we had a bunch of guys, and like I said, my memory doesn't serve me well on a lot of them, but we had some players. We had some guys.
Now, did you have to whip Mike Cobb into shape when he came over there to North, or was he already rearing and ready to go?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. Having my cousin come over there, that was really great for us and great for him. And he had already had the respect of the guys on our team, because we had played against him in basketball when he was at South High School, and when he was at I can't think of the name of Mike's junior high school that he went to. It'll come to me, but But, so we already knew Mike. So Mike came over. He was humble. He worked hard. And, and Mike was a big dude. Nobody was going to mess with Mike, so, and also he came in, he was my cousin, so man, so people, hey man, that's my cousin, and so, and it was funny. One time Mike and we were arguing about something, and somebody tried to butt in, and Mike said, hey man, you better be quiet. Both of us are going to jump on you, so we would do that kind of stuff. So, but Mike was a great addition when he came over there, and I was so happy just to have my cousin over there playing with us, because I had played against him all our lives. We had played against each other in Little League and all that other stuff. So just to have that opportunity for that year to play together was beautiful to me.
And so when you are, in your junior senior year, you end up going to Miami of Ohio. Like, what was that process like? I know that's everything is accelerated now in the recruiting process, and so back in the late 60s, early 70s, what was that process like for you?
Well, like I say, it's a lot different than it is now. That's for sure. I remember making all of my recruiting trips. My mom and dad didn't make the trips with me. We were on our own. And so I had to make the assessment of the schools that I went to on my own. Coaches would come by and do home visits. And that would be the first time that my dad and mom would get a chance to meet these head coaches or these coaches that were recruiting me. And so that process made it a little bit different. And I know that I think I had told Ron that I had committed to go to Kent State. I took a visit up to Kent State, myself and Earl Taylor. We went up to Kent State, and they were recruiting both of us. And, hey, man, we can play college ball together. We go to Kent State, went up there and had a great time. Came home, and I told my dad I'm going to Kent State, and he said, why? And I said, I had a good time. He said, what else? What about the education? Well, I don't know about that, but I had fun. And my dad told me that wasn't going to work. You're going to do something different than that. And it just so happened that Coach Mallory came in the next week and did a home visit. And he came in talking about education, the opportunity that I would have to get a great education from a great university, which Miami had that reputation of great academics, and told me I could be a part of a great football program. And they had the reputation of having a great program. I just knew the challenge for me was going to be the racial aspect of it, because that school at that time was 98.7, 98.9% white. So for me to acclimate to that situation, Youngstown prepared me for it. My upbringing prepared me for it to go there. I wasn't intimidated at all. I went in there and I said, man, I can compete academically, athletically, socially. Hey, I can go up here. I can live with other people and get along with other people. So that recruiting process was really interesting, because, like I said, Dad and them didn't get a chance to go to campus. They got to meet the coach when he came, and basically it just went from there. But for me, going to Miami of Ohio was a challenge. And I went there because I wanted to challenge myself. And also when Coach Mallory told me that I would have an opportunity to be the first Black quarterback in the school's history. And so that was a great incentive for me. I wanted to see, can I do this? Can I go up there? And I trusted Coach Mallory when he said, we're going to give you a chance to play quarterback. And he did. And he stuck to his word and gave me that opportunity. And everything that he told me that I would be able to accomplish at Miami, I was able to do that and more.
And can you talk a little bit about that, about being the first Black quarterback at Miami, and what that was like, what the expectations were or what they weren't, and how that all went down on your shoulders?
Yeah, I think when it was first going down, Dallas, I think as I was out there competing, I wasn't trying to compete at that time to be the first Black quarterback at that time. Heck, I was just trying to compete.
Right.
Man, I don't want to be. I'm trying to be first team, so I'm just competing against these other guys. And so, in competing against those guys, so now I'm out there and I'm competing. I'm working with other guys. I'm a quarterback, so I'm a quarterback. So the dimension of that position, puts you in a leadership position. And so I was ready. I was prepared for that because of what I did at North High School. And so just as that went on, just taking on that leadership role and earning the respect of not just my Black teammates, but also my white teammates as well. Because some of those guys, I laugh. You can't. Hard to believe. It's 1976. I'm going to a school where I'm the first. Myself and some of my black teammates are the first black people that some of these guys have had a real interaction with. They may have seen black people, but they didn't have any relationships or any interactions with them. So just that aspect of it. So there were some boys that, man, this idea of this black guy being our quarterback, there were some guys, they weren't real fired up about it, but just through my play and the way I worked and carried myself, they got on board. And became a part of, hey, we're trying to win football games. We're purpose driven here. We want to win football games. And they looked at the fact that I could help us win football games. And so it was interesting. The student body, I remember we were playing in a bowl game, and our coaches did something at the end of the year. It was my junior year, and what he would always do at the last game of the season, he would start the seniors. And so we had a white quarterback that was a senior, and he started them in our last game, and he played a little bit, and I played, and the guy played great. He was a good quarterback. He helped us win he helped us win. But what happened, so we're going into this bowl game against Georgia, and everybody thinks that he's going to start the game. And so Coach Crum comes out, and he says, hey, Sherman, here's what we're going to do. We're going to introduce Steve as the starter, but you'll start the game. Man, we went out on that field the next day, and, man, the Miami fans were booing me in warm-ups. I mean, I'm getting booed by, man, they booing me. Boo! That was really the first time that I experienced some of that.
Wow.
Because they thought Steve was going to start. But it didn't last long because, I remember it motivated me. I went to my roommate, and I told my roommate, because he was listening to that stuff, I said, I'm going to do my best to make sure that guy doesn't get on the field tonight. I'm going to make sure he doesn't play. Man, I'm going to light this sucker up tonight. And so that was my motivation. But that was the one time that I did experience something that overtly that I could recognize it, and other people recognize that there was an issue because of the black-white thing.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, you're good. I'm fine with you carrying on.
No, I was just gonna ask, and so, what was the college experience like, the transition, and obviously having a lot of success and being able to transition to the NFL. What were some of the things that you felt you took from the college game, from your college experience that propelled you to that next level?
Well, I'm gonna go back to what I said before. Everything started in the foundation with Mr. Carter, starting with my dad. And so it was hard work, at McGuffey Center. And it was hard work at North High School. And it was hard work and discipline at Miami of Ohio. So when I got to the NFL, it was just a continuation of what we had already been doing. It's that discipline of being dependable, accountable, and responsible. So getting to the NFL, now I'm just getting a paycheck. It's a paycheck, and I don't have to go to classes, but the responsibility was still the same. The expectation was maybe even, I say pressure is what you put on yourself. So I just knew that I was going to go in there and do my job. My dad told me that playing professional football was how I made my living. It wasn't my life. And so I knew that playing football, that wasn't the center of my life. But I knew that that's how I was making my living at that time. So I wanted to do the job. I wanted to be responsible, a responsible teammate, a responsible employee of the Seattle Seahawks or San Diego Chargers or whoever I played for. So just the work ethic was already there. I learned how to work hard back starting in Little League football. And so that wasn't hard to do. Learning the X's and O's wasn't hard to do because I had to do that in Little League football and all the way up through, in college. So it was just getting acclimated to now it's a job. And, you're living on your own. And now I'm married. Now I have kids. And so now you're incorporating that. But the aspect of playing football was football.
What when you went to Miami, what was your major?
PE. I was going to be a gym rat. I was
going to ask you because I remember you saying, you saw Coach Knox in the back of his class, you said, I wanted to be that's what I want to do. So that's what you did, huh?
Yeah, I did. And Mr. Knox was that inspiration. And then, my basketball coaches, George Ritz and Charlie Bush, and these were white guys. Our basketball coaches were white. And so, and man, just the relationship we had with them and the difference that they made in our mindset as we looked at the world, and how they would look at the world through our eyes also and could understand the stuff that we were dealing with. And so, you know, just looking at how that went down with those guys. So that coaching part of it was just, you know, was just special.
Now, you know how they say that winning is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just listening to what you're saying, you know, I'm getting this profile of a person who's experienced lots of success and uh, progressing and having a trajectory that comes out more favorable than not most time. So most people, when you hear that phrase, they say winning is contagious, and I guess the automatic thought is to think of a final score and a win-loss record. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, just listening to your path and your rise through high school, college. I mean, at Miami, you guys put up a tremendous record,
Mm-hmm.
especially for a MAC school. You're taking on big time schools from other conferences and coming out on top. Um, it, you guys have a really good collection of players. I was kind of perusing through some of the men that were on your team, and Rob Carpenter's name
Oh,
jumped out
yeah.
to me
Yes.
because I live down in the Columbus area,
Uh-huh.
and you know he was really great coaching at Lancaster High, where
Yeah.
they're from. But you know, I know he had a career as a New York Giant. His
Mm-hmm.
sons were all tremendous football players, and so I think about, you know, if you looked at uh, your bio, you would think, okay, Sherman Smith became this phenomenal person at Miami of Ohio and went on to have success in the NFL. But listening to your story, you realize, you know, those seeds of winning and doing the right thing and coming out on top, those are getting planted long before you ever get to that college campus.
Absolutely.
You know, when you get to Seattle, you know, as we talked the other night, this is the first year of them as an organization,
Right.
because they're an expansion team.
Yeah.
So you were essentially giving me the information of you don't have to follow someone else's blueprint because everybody is figuring it out together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that I'm interested in that transition from that college level to that NFL level is you have a position change that you have to go through.
Yes.
And obviously you know you have the size, you have the physicality and the skills and abilities to make that switch and that transition. But you know, there's something to be said about a guy who can go from the mental mind frame of a quarterback and then accept the role and responsibility of an NFL running back. How did you do that, and how did you make that transition?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you what, that is so wild, Ron, in Dallas, because like I say, I was a quarterback in college and I got drafted as a wide receiver. So I'm the first offensive player that they drafted, you know, in the second round. And so I'm a wide receiver. So I go to mini camp as a wide receiver, you know. So I'm out there, I'm practicing running pass routes and all that other stuff. So we get to training camp, and the head coach, Jack Patera, walks up to me and he said, Have you been looking at the running back plays? And I started laughing. I said, No, coach, because you know, I'm a wide receiver. He said, Well, not anymore. We moved you to running back. And I said, What? You know, I hadn't played running back since Little League football. And so here it is, I'm in an NFL camp, you know, and he telling me we're moving you to running back. So now I go into the running back room and I walk in that room, and this, like you say, it's the first year expansion team. So the numbers were unlimited. We walked in that room and we might have had 15 running backs in there. You know, it might have been 15 of us, you know, so you had fullbacks and tailbacks. And so I'm up in there, now I'm getting ready to play running back, competing against these guys that have played this position. And the running back coach comes to me and he says, Son, Andy Mack, he was great. I owe a lot of my coaching to him because he taught me how to coach running backs, because he had to coach a guy that never played the position how to play it. So I took a lot of stuff that he gave me. But I laughed. What he did was he told me that first. He said, son, don't worry about it. He said, we're going to take it slow with you. I said, okay, well, that's good. So we go out for our first practice, and it's a 9-on-7 drill. And it's 9-on-7, very first practice. And I'm standing in the back kicking it because he's going to take it slow. And all of a sudden he looks at me and he said, get in there. And I said, get in there. What are you talking about? You said you were going to take it slow. And he started laughing. He said, I lied to you, son. I lied to you. And we laughed about it, but that's how he put me out there. And I just had to learn, and, I knew how to run the football. I was a running quarterback. So, but the transition was, just learning to play the position. How do I play the position? Because I knew that there were some guys that, I looked at them and said, man, there's some things they do better than I do. But I knew I had a great work ethic and I was going to outwork anyone. So I had the reputation. The coaches said that I was dependable. I did the right, I wasn't going to make mistakes. I took pride in doing things right. I wasn't going to be a guy that was going to kill us. I wasn't making mistakes out there. I'm going to do my job, so it was just that factor that we always tell guys, your greatest ability is your reliability, and so I wanted to be reliable. And so that's what I was. And so I was fortunate. I was fortunate that I was on that team because they allowed me to develop just like the team was developing. I got to develop along with them as a running back.
We haven't talked about your coaching piece, and I think what's interesting to me is, and Ron kind of took my thought from it, listening, the amount of great men, great people that have been in your life. And I think probably all three of us can speak to that we're where we are today because of people that took time to invest in us and help develop us.
Mm-hmm.
But one question is, as you're talking, what do you feel out of your, 3 playing experiences, high school, college, NFL, what do you feel was the most enjoyable? And then what do you feel is the most rewarding? Because sometimes the most rewarding things we do aren't the most enjoyable things. Out of those 3 that we've talked about so far, what do you feel is the most enjoyable and then rewarding?
Well, I think in all 3 of them, the most rewarding thing were the relationships that I had with my teammates. That was the most rewarding, the friendships that came out of that, the relationship that I had with the coaches. I think that's what was really exciting to me, those friendships that some still exist today. And so those relationships, and then just the lessons learned. I learned something at every level that helped me at the next level. So each step was important to me. I think without one of those steps, I probably would have struggled at the next one. So, Dallas, just looking at it, I said, man, all 3 levels, I got something out of it. All 3 were important to me. All 3 had I was at a different stage in my life, and all 3 were preparing me. I was prepared for that stage and was preparing me for the next stage. And so high school, college, and pros, it was, it was each, like I said, each phase had its own benefit to it that was very important in my development as a man, as well as a player.
And
I'm
what
going to tell you
was
guys too. I'm going to tell the story too about, even lessons learned that carry on throughout my whole career. We had just lost a football game to my cousin's team. We had just lost a Little League football game. McGuffey had just lost to the Buckeye Elks. And so, man, I was disappointed, man. We lost to the Buckeye Elks. And I'm on the sideline, man. And, I'm acting up. I'm throwing my helmet down. I want everybody to know Sherman's upset. Sherman, we lost this game. And so, and I knew my mom and dad were there. And my mom loved football. I'm figuring she's just as upset as I am. So the life lesson that I got from that, I go home because, we had a bus. So we took the bus home and dropped us off at the center. I walk home. So I walk home. I walk in the house. My mom said, go ahead and get in there, take a shower. I go in, I take my shower, and I come back out. And my mom is sitting there at the kitchen table. And she said, if you ever act like that again, that will be the last football game you ever play. If you ever do that again, she said, that will be the last. I will come on the football field. I will come on the basketball court. Wherever you're at, I will come and get you. And you will come off that field and that court. She said, because if you can't handle if you don't know how to lose, you know, you got to learn how to handle it. Guys, I never forgot one, because I knew she would do it. My mom didn't joke. She would have done that. But that was something that was a lesson that stuck with me forever. You know, man, I'm gonna handle this the right way. You know, I remember what mom said. And those are those little lessons that really made a difference. Instead of my mom putting her arms around me, saying, "Yeah, baby, I understand how you feel. I'm upset too." Man, she gnawed into me and said, "That's unacceptable behavior. Don't do that again." Okay, that was a lesson for me.
Now, myself and Dallas, we both had experience coaching football at various levels. Um, One of the things that I'm interested to know, because I think when you go from that transition of being a player to being a coach,
Mhm.
you assume because you've been doing this for so long that it's going to be seamless. I'm interested to know, you know, when you stepped away from the game and then you step on that other side and now you're teaching the game, is there a learning curve for you in terms of relating to your players, in terms of preparation and organizing, and then getting the outcomes that you want out of these young men that you're influencing?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there were a couple things you had to learn, you know, just the technical part of being a coach, the preparation that it takes for my position, you know, getting ready for meetings and all of that other stuff. And you learn that pretty quick, you know. So that you learn that pretty quick, and you develop your own style and all of that as you're going along. So you learn that part. You know, you got to learn the system that you're getting ready to put in. So you need to be prepared mentally to go in there and to coach your guys up. But I think the relationship part of it was always a big aspect of it. You know, that these guys that you're coaching, the way I looked at them, I just didn't look at them as football players. I looked at them as young men. I looked at them as somebody's son. And I always told them that I would never disrespect you. I'm going to treat you and talk to you the way I want to be treated, the way I want to be talked to, the way I want somebody to treat my son, the way I want somebody to talk to my son. That was going to be my character. My character as a coach was important to me. And so I just wanted to make sure that we had that. We weren't going to be dealing with those kind of issues where guys felt like they were being disrespected and all that other stuff. We weren't going to have those kind of issues. So just learning that aspect of how to coach them, you know, how I got coached. And, you know, I got coached the right way. Got coached hard. It didn't mean you couldn't get after a guy, but it's how you got after him. So I just think, you know, the acclimating and the coaching, like I said, a lot of players, when they get through with their NFL careers, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to coach, you know, and I didn't want to coach in the NFL. I just wanted to be a high school coach. I was cool with coaching in high school. So I coached high school for 5 years and loved it. Absolutely loved it because it was coaching guys. And so I just knew my thing was when I got interviewed at the University of Illinois, Lou Tepper, the first question in the interview that he asked me was, why do you coach? Do you coach to make a living or do you coach to make a difference? And I knew my answer because of Coach Knox, Coach Ritz, Coach Bush, you know, Mr. Carter. I said, man, I coach to make a difference. That's why I coach. And so when you understand why you coach, it impacts how you coach. So I already knew how I was going to coach. So now you go coach these guys, but these guys want to know, can you help me get better as a player, not just as a man? Can you help me get better as a player? So you better know your football too. You better be able to help them be able to play the game. And having the fact that I coach running backs and I played the position, it gave me some credibility with the guys that I played the position, and I could relate to a lot of the stuff they were going through. And a lot of times I could relate to what they were going through when they were trying to make an excuse for something. And I would say, that excuse doesn't work. You know, I played the position too. You know, so it worked for him and it worked against him in some cases. But so just having that thing that I played the position really helped. But you had to be prepared. These guys want to know, do you know your stuff? Can you help me get better? And then holding them accountable. You know, I think you guys have both heard that statement. Players don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. I realize that is a true statement. And that didn't just start with high school and junior high. I'm talking about pro football players, guys making millions of dollars. They want to know that, do you care about them as a person? And so that was something that really was important to me as a coach.
Now, when you're at Illinois under Coach Tepper, uh, are are you the running back coach during the era that Clinton Lynch is there?
Um, I'm trying to think who was our running back when I was there.
Well, I'm thinking this would have been somewhere around 90, 91 that he came through there, but he was out of Ursuline High School, and you know he had a really good career there. So I didn't know if you were at that university yet. And then the second part of that is, you had returned to your alma mater as a coach.
Mhm.
Were there any expectations or any ambitions in making that return back to Oxford?
Not at all. I was coaching high school football out at Redmond in Redmond, Washington, loving it. And I thought I was getting ready to become the head coach of Redmond High School when Randy Walker, a teammate of mine, called me up and said, "Hey, I just got the head job. Let's go back to our alma mater and let's put it back. Let's get it back where it was when we were there." Well, my wife is a Miami of Ohio grad. My wife is from Cleveland. We're out in the Pacific Northwest. That's a long way away from my kids seeing their grandparents. So, man, you know what? This is great to go back to my alma mater and, we'll get back home. So that was a welcome, unexpected, but welcome surprise to be able to go back there and the coach at the school that I went to. And so that was really special.
And how long did you stay there at Miami?
I was only there for 2 years. 2 years. And it's interesting, when I got there, I had to get talked to go to Miami because, once again, I said, I got set in my ways. I said, man, I just want to be a high school coach. I never aspired to be a college coach. I didn't want to be a college coach. But, the thing I know is, I'm as a Christian, I know that God was directing my steps. As I look back on it now, I can see God's hand in every step that I took, particularly in going back to Miami of Ohio, because it timed up with the same time that I started recruiting this young man out of Campbell Memorial High School, Dylan McCullough, and so all of it started making sense. When things like that start happening, things made sense to me, whereas when it was going on, it didn't make sense as to why I was doing it. But I was only at Miami for 2 years, and then I was at Illinois for 3 years. And then when I had an opportunity to leave Illinois to go to the NFL, I didn't want to leave Illinois. I don't want to coach in the NFL. I just want to be a college coach. But, the thing I always tell guys, the will of God, you don't have to pursue the will of God. It will pursue you. And I saw that God's calling on my life was pursuing me, because it was very clear that this is what I was supposed to do. And so I ended up coaching 22 years in the NFL.
Yeah, and when we were talking to Mike Cobb, he had mentioned about he had taken a trip. He was with Chicago, I believe, at the time. And Ron, correct me if I missed something here, but he was with Chicago at the time, and he had said that that's when he made a commitment in his life because of his relationship with you and a conversation, and so it sounds like even early on in your NFL career, that relationship, your faith, was important, and then fast forwarding through your coaching career.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who knows your story has heard the amazing story of you and your son, and how that came to be. And we were talking before we started recording about you guys speaking down at Youngstown City Schools, and
Mm-hmm.
what was that, to whatever your comfort level is, what was that experience like, going through that process and meeting and finding out the whole situation with your son there?
Well, I'm gonna hit on the faith part of it, and then it rolls right into that, because I really, like I said, as I look back, I think when I sat back in that classroom and it hit me, man, that's it. I want to be a coach. I really felt God at that time was letting me know what He wanted me to do, and then becoming a Christian became the how I was supposed to do it, and became almost a why too, why to do it. So I wanted the coach to make a difference. I wanted the coach to glorify God. So it became, so it was going to impact how I coach. So my faith became, I looked at coaching football as my ministry. I looked at it as a ministry. It was bigger than winning football games to me. So I always made the statement: if coaching football, particularly all at both levels, at all levels, but particularly in college and in pros, the amount of time that you put in, I said, if this is just about winning football games, this is a serious waste of time. Just to win a football game, the amount of time you put in, you put in 16, 18 hours a day to win a football game. I mean, that's a serious waste of time. So it had to be bigger than that to me. So it's got to be something bigger than that. So I looked at it as being something bigger than that. As I, went on in my coaching career, I saw it as my ministry. So, here it is. I'm coaching guys and I'm talking to them about being responsible men and all that other stuff. And I end up retiring from coaching, and I get a phone call from Dealin, a young man that I recruited out of high school, Campbell Moore High School. He came to Miami. I coached him for 1 year. We maintained contact. He got into coaching, and he's one of the finest running back coaches around. I'll say that if he wasn't my son, I would say that. And but I would call him up and say, "Man, help me out. Give me some drills. Give me this," because he was just really good, with doing stuff like that. And so when he calls me a week before Thanksgiving in 2017, and he goes through the deal about being adopted and looking for his biological parents, and I'm fired up for the guy. But then when he told me, he found his biological mom and said her name, my heart dropped, because before I could think about it, he was telling me what I thought could be possible when he told me her name. And and so, man, for me, my first emotion was I was disappointed and I was hurt. And it wasn't because of dealing. I was hurt because of my irresponsibility. That I recognized that I was responsible for dealing not having what I had growing up. The difference that my dad made in my life, that because of my irresponsible behavior in high school, this young man didn't get to experience what I experienced. And so that really bothered me for a while. Really, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get into the whole understanding and grasping this aspect that, I just discovered that I have a 45-year-old son, and it's Dealing McCullough, someone that I know. I was just dealing with the guilt of the irresponsibility. But my wife, when I told her about it, she was the first agent of grace to me. Even though this happened before I even knew my wife, she didn't throw any shade at it. She said, "Hey, our family just got bigger, and you want to talk about someone that loves Dealing and those 4 boys. She loves them like Dealing is her son, and so she's all in. And those 4 grandsons, like they are her grandsons. So I mean, so that's beautiful. And Dealing, he helped me. He said, "You were in my life. You made a difference in my life." So I was just feeling guilty. And but then God allowed me to experience the grace, the forgiveness that I was getting from Dealing, the forgiveness that I got from him. I called Carol and I apologized to her for putting her in that position where she had to make a decision like that, and the grace I got from her, and so it was just from guilt to grace, that's what it was. So, but it's been a great experience, just recognizing, Dealing as my son. I tell people that I apologize to him for my irresponsible behavior, but I never had to apologize to him for how I treated him in the time that I met him. From the time I started recruiting him to the day he called me up and told me, "You're my father." I didn't have to apologize for that because I treated him like he was my son. I valued him, treated him with respect. And so it was great when he called and he said to me, he said, because we were going to do a DNA test just to make sure. And he said, "If you are my father," he said, "if you aren't my father, that's okay. We have a relationship." He said, "If you are my father, that's great. We'll build on our relationship." So, so we knew we were going to have a relationship. We had a relationship and we were just going to build on it if he were my, if the DNA test proved that he was my son, which, we didn't need to take it. I think there were so many factors that, looking at them, I go look at the cats, man, the life. There was one time he sent me an article with a picture of him, and I thought it was me. I looked at it and I said, man, I don't remember doing this article, and it was Dealing. And but we did the DNA test, and in the time that we were waiting for the test results to come back, I would have been crushed if I wasn't his father. At that point, I wanted to be his father so bad, man. I want to be his dad. I want to be. I pray that I'm his dad, and so it's been good, man. It's been good. The whole situation, the way the family has handled it. My two kids, Siobhan and Sherman, they were beautiful. They both said I always wanted an older brother, and so they treat Dina like an older brother, and so and I just told my kids that this relationship with Dylan was not going to come in between our relationship. And Dylan told Siobhan and Sherman that he's not trying to come in between our relationship. My son Sherman said, I encourage you to spend more time, spend all the time you want to with him, man. I was my son's best man when he got married. And so, I know my relationship with him is strong, and relationship with my daughter. So it's been good, man. It's really been, it's been a God thing, how God has used that story to make a difference.
Yeah, and I'm sure you hear this. I mean, I know you do these things quite often, and you've had a lot of exposure with the story. And but
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say, I mean, it's really impressive to hear how you navigated that, and I mean that from the standpoint of like, it's not just like you said, it's not just something happens and so you have to switch gears. Like, hearing the story of how you came up and just how you've lived your life and sowed those seeds, it's really just a testament to you as a man. It's a great thing to sit here and listen to. So I just want to say that.
Well, thank you. I just know there's a lot of things that, Dallas and Ron, that Mr. Carter, my dad, and them were trying to teach us as young men growing up. And I was telling my wife the other day, they were trying to teach us growing up. They said, you need to know that all behavior is an attempt to reach a goal, whether or not you're fully aware of that goal. They taught us that irresponsibility is never neutral. Someone becomes responsible for your irresponsibility. They taught us that the one thing that we've learned from history is we have not learned from history, that we need to learn from other people's mistakes. And as I look back on it, and then when I found out I had a 45-year-old son, 3 of those, there were about 6 or 7 things they were trying to teach us. Those 3 things that I just mentioned, I wish I had I didn't pay attention to. All behavior is an attempt to reach a goal, whether or not you're fully aware of that goal. Well, I'm humble. I can be humble about humility is not denying your strength. It's being honest about your failures and your weaknesses. So I can honestly say, my behavior, my reckless and irresponsible behavior in high school, how I was going around, man, sexing, having sex and all the other stuff. I shouldn't have been surprised. I shouldn't have been surprised at all that I had a son, because my behavior was an attempt to reach a goal. I just wasn't, some people say, what you think was going to happen, man? So there's, irresponsibility, not being neutral. Someone has to become responsible for your responsibility. That happened to me. Adele Comer, she raised Dylan. She raised my son, and I didn't learn from other people's mistakes. Other people had done the same thing that I did, but I didn't think it would happen to me. So I'm even more motivated when I go out and speak to young men to talk to them about those aspects and say, you got a guy standing here in front of you that didn't pay attention to this, that didn't do it the right way. And so, so there's lessons to be learned, even today, as I speak to young men about, things that my dad and other people were trying to teach me at a younger age. And then I want to say this too, because I don't want the thing that happened too. Our first Thanksgiving in 2018, we had Thanksgiving together. We go to Kansas City, and we're there together as a family. So Carol's there. Adele didn't make it. Adele wasn't able to be there. Darnell, Dylan's wife, was there. My son was there with our three grandkids and his wife. My daughter was there. She's not married. And so we're sitting around, man, we're having a good time. We're enjoying this new family dynamic. And so I say to my grandson, I said, man, this is good stuff, isn't it, man? So, you know, my grandsons are in high school and college age, and my granddaughter was in high school, college age. So I said, man, this is cool, isn't it, man? We're having a good time. You know, man, isn't this exciting how we're together as a family? Yeah, man, it's really great. And I told my grandsons and my granddaughter, I said, this is cool, but don't do it this way. You don't want to do it like this. Mm-hmm. I said, because there was a lot of pain that went along with this. There's a lot of hurt behind it. Oh, this is cool right now. God worked this out, man, where it's good right now. I said, but don't do it this way. So even in that joyful moment, even in that laughter, I wanted them to know this is cool, but don't do it like this. You don't want to find out when you're 63 years old, you got a 45-year-old son. You know, you don't want to find out when you're 63 years old, you got 4 grandsons. You know, and you know, and they're in high school and getting ready to go to college. So there's a lot of things that I took that lesson. I just wanted them to know it's cool how it turned out, but if you want God's best, do it God's way. And God took a mess and made a miracle out of it. And I thank God for how it's turned out.
That, you know, I think all things are ordered in the way that they're supposed to be ordered in.
Yeah.
And you know, getting a chance and the time to listen to, you know, your journey and all of those great experiences leading up to, you know, that amazing moment, because it could have turned out so many other ways, but it turned out the way that it was meant to.
Yes.
And all things fell into place the way that they were meant to.
Yes, they did.
You know, when you reflect back over your career as a player, a coach, a guy who's trying to figure his way, getting to experience tremendous heights in your profession, and then, you know, honestly being given the blessing of a second chance to know and make things right.
Right.
If you had one more down in your prime, where would you choose to play that one more down? Who would be the guys that would be beside you, and who would you guys be going against?
Now, you talking about a football game or just life, period?
Well, it's a reflective question, and it could be football, it could be life, it could be coaching, and it doesn't just have to be one. You know, it's of your choosing, you telling it your way in the scenario that you would want it.
You know, and definitely not trying to dodge the question, because honestly, you know, Ron and Dallas, as I think about that question, even the things that didn't work out right, even the things that weren't good, I trust God's word where he says he causes all things to work together for good, you know, even the bad things that he causes to work together. So even when I look back on some of the negative things, I said, well, man, I wish I wasn't sexually active in high school like I was, you know, and then Carol wouldn't have got pregnant. But then it wouldn't have Dylan and those 4 grandboys, you know, so I look at that kind of stuff. So I look at things like that. So, man, I don't know. I don't know. I can't look at one thing that I say, man, if I could one more chance, go back and do this again. It probably has a lot to do with my Christian walk more than just one aspect of it. I think there was a lot of time as a believer that I struggled in my walk, and it wasn't I struggled. It's just that I was a victim of stolen identity. You know, I didn't recognize and value who I was and whose I was as a Christian. And so I lived like a non-Christian. I just said, man, I got grace. You know what, man? I'm going to heaven. So, man, all I got to do is just ask for forgiveness. And so not understanding that not only being a Christian, is it a privilege, but it's a responsibility. You know, not only must you believe the gospel of Jesus Christ to be saved, you must believe the gospel of Jesus Christ to live saved. And so I go back on that aspect of my walk where I didn't know that to the point where it impacted my life. And I just don't know how many people I may have negatively impacted during that time. You know, during that time when I was out there, man, and it was like, as a believer, I'm out there, man, and you would look at me and you say, man, this cat, he said he's a Christian. He doesn't act like one. He doesn't talk like one, because I'm thinking it's all good as long as you got the blood, you've asked for forgiveness, and it's all sweet. Like I said, what the turning point that happened there for me is the same guy that led me to Christ, the guy that modeled the Christian life in front of me, because God knows that title of that movie, Show Me the Father. When I was walking back to my dorm one night when I was a junior, or it was my senior year in college, I wanted to know God. I looked up to the stars one night and I said, God, I need somebody to show me the Christian life, because everybody else was hypocritical. So fast forward to it, this guy came to me as I was struggling in my Christian walk, and he asked me to stop telling people I was a Christian. he said, do me a favor, stop telling people you're a Christian. You're making it tough on the rest of us who are trying to make a difference for Jesus. And he looked at me and he asked me a question. He saw I was struggling in my walk. He didn't say, man, you need to go to church more. You need to read your Bible more. You need to do this. He said, don't you know who you are? Don't you know who you are? And that was it right there, man, my identity. And so that's the part that I regret. The years that I lived under a stolen identity. And I just don't know the impact that the negative impact that I may have had on some people during that time.
That's a great perspective and a great way to look at it. Um, I'm very appreciative that a man of your stature would take the time out after being in that spotlight and really getting to a point that the rest of the world doesn't even come close to. The fact that you would consider doing this with us on the recommendation of Mike Cobb, I'm very grateful to you. It was a pleasure for me to, get to listen to you and hear your experience and what you went through and the way that you got there, in settings that are familiar and relatable to me. We all come from the same place, so your journey and your walk could have been any one of us.
Yes.
So I'm very appreciative to get to have this time to listen to your story and really, spark some thoughts and reflection in who I am as a person in this moment. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Well, Ron, I want to say, man, like I said, it's not prideful humility. And I think as we talked the other day, I honestly, man, I'm just humbled by all of it. I don't think I'm that big of a deal. I really don't. I thank God that he's allowed me to experience. I don't think I'm better than anyone, none of that stuff, man. I'm just humble,
Right.
and so I just thank God for it. So really, me being on your show, man, it's my privilege. It's my privilege to be able to sit here and talk with you in Dallas, and the fact that you would ask me to do it, man, I'm humbled that you would ask me to do it, and I appreciate that. And so, and that's the way my mom and dad brought me up, man. I'm just, appreciative of what I got, and I'm just a guy, and I know I'm loved by God and my wife and my kids, and so, man, so I'm just humbled by all of this, and thank you for letting me be on the podcast.
I think that's what's, I don't know, if, for lack of a better word, so appealing. I think that's what kind of makes you such a good man to listen to, is that humility. You bring so much to the table. Just listen to you talk about some of your leadership things about, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care, and those relationship things, and then having that humility like that, as a person who has to lead people, that rings so true. So, I think hearing some of those leadership things and relationship things for me it has been just really enjoyable, and it's been a pleasure to get to listen to you and talk to you a little bit, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dallas. Thank you very much. Yeah, that leadership stuff, man, that's good stuff, and wish you the best as you lead people. like I said, we're leading people, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody, they're somebody, so,
Yeah.
and so I just know a sign that I had on my room, every room when I coached, they walked in, and the first thing that I wrote on the board, the power of respect is to never disrespect. And I told them that was going to be our thing. We're going to respect each other in here. And I think that respect, it doesn't flow bottom up. It flows from the top, So, and so just that respect factor that I have for everyone, and you want that in return. So that's just one of the things, just being respectful of people and having regard for your time, for your time and for what you guys do. So I just thank you. Thank you, Dallas, for what you said, and Ron, also yourself.
Yes, sir. We will certainly send you the link to our unedited version so you
Okay.
can peruse and look through. We'll clean up the interview, which I don't think there's much cleaning to do. You're a very polished guy, and then I'll certainly forward you the link as
Okay.
well for your enjoyment of the promotional.
Yeah.
Should be out next Sunday, you think, Dal?
Oh yeah, we'll get it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever whatever you feel you need to do, Ron and Dallas, to clean it up, man, hit it and get it, man. So there'll be nothing on there that I'm gonna say, I don't like that part of it, man. Whatever. So, man, I trust you guys in your editing, whatever you're gonna do. And thank you, man. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice talking to you. Great meeting you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Hey, man, have a great rest of the day and night and whatever, man. And God bless you guys.